The Detroit Lions, 6.5-point home favorites. First Sunday divisional round playoff game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, total of 48.5. And only spread bet for me in the divisional round is Bucks plus 6.5. Bet this on Tuesday. I got Bucks plus 6 minus 105. So I didn't get the hook, but under the key number of 7 and with a little less juice, I was happy to grab Bucks at 6. Could have waited on Bucks plus 6.5, but there she goes with closing line value. Hopefully got some closing value on the Ravens. Texans total, unless you wind up driving it back up, Mo, with the over. But I made this line closer to Lions minus 4. You probably are maybe gearing towards Lions minus 5. But still, I show value in Tampa Bay. And if you look at this Lions offense, and it's kind of going to notice that they struggled for 2.5 quarters against the Rams after 3 straight touchdown drives in the wild card round, only a field goal the rest of the way, and largely outplayed when you look at yards per play. I know Goff was pretty efficient in the air, but you look at his completion percentage against pressure, no completions against the Rams, 0 for 5. Small sample size, but it is surprising. And he also had that flub where he tossed it backwards and easily could have been a turnover that cost Detroit. I don't necessarily know if they got points on that drive, but didn't wind up costing the Lions. That sort of play could definitely cost them against Tampa Bay. But you look at his efficiency or inefficiency against pressure this season, 28th ranked pressure catchable pass rate this season, right around 45.7%. So he struggled against pressure. Now, I know Todd Bowles and Brian Flores, both very creative defensive coordinators. Goff had success against Brian Flores, the Vikings defensive coordinator, in both of their 2 games, not just the first one where the Lions won the division, but in the finale as well, where the Lions played all their offensive starters for some odd reason. But the Vikings run defense is vulnerable. The Bucs shored up their run defense over the course of the season, top 10 at the very least run defense overall when it comes to EPA per carry allowed. I think actually top 5. And then Bucs secondary, you look at a healthy Jamel Dean, Carlton Davis, Shaq Barrett. All those guys are very important to Tampa Bay being able to limit a very explosive Lions passing offense, especially in play action, which goes back to my point about them being able to stop the run. But Dean against St. Brown, Davis against St. Brown. I know Devonta Smith had a huge game against the Bucs secondary, but that was largely off one play or maybe a couple plays where Winfield got lost in coverage. I'm not saying Goff won't be able to do anything through the air. The Lions should be able to get theirs. That's why a lot of pro money came in on the over in this game. But I like the Bucs defensive matchup if they can stop the run and limit Goff's success in play action and generate pressure off of that. And then on the flip side of the ball, I mentioned quarterbacks against zone coverage. Lions rely on zone much more than man, or maybe not to the nth degree like the Ravens, but still a pretty decent amount. And Baker Mayfield's second most EPA per dropback against zone coverage this season, behind Purdy, like I mentioned in the 49ers Packers handicap. You go back to that week 6 game. I know you were on Tampa Mo. Bucks closed +3, so Lions a field goal favorite on the road. Lions without some key pieces, but Mayfield missed a ton of wide open throws in that game, so explosive plays should be there. If you like maybe Chris Godwin a little more when it comes to player props because he won't be matched up against Cam Sutton, then again, Cam Sutton against Mike Evans. Cam Sutton isn't the best coverage corner to begin with. The guy who I wouldn't target is Trey Palmer going up against Brian Branch, but either way, I expect a lot of explosive passing plays for the Bucs to keep this game within 6. Did you end up firing Tampa Bay with me?
Not yet, but I probably will. I'm waiting to see if the 7 comes up. I mean, it's just like, I feel like the value of getting 7 is so much higher than missing 6.5 and ending up with 6. Like, I'd probably just still bet a small bet at 6. Or I might just start with a small bet at 6.5 and then see what happens, add more at 7 if 7 comes up. I do like the Bucs. I do think that I was the high man on the Lions late in the season, it seemed like. But I do think this line is a bit too high. Less concerned overall for both sides about the coverage, to be honest, and more about the pressure rate. It's 2 quarterbacks that we've seen can really implode under pressure and just make really big time negative plays. I think the big issue with the Bucs is that they love to blitz, but they're not all that great at it. We saw it work, though, to an extreme degree against the Eagles. Like, it's pretty surprising because the Eagles have a strong offensive line, too. I'm guessing they blitzed plenty in that other game. I don't remember it specifically. I did watch a lot of it because, like you said, I had the Bucs. Nice CLV for me at 3.5, and probably shouldn't have even been within 14, to be honest. Like, they got crushed.
Yeah, but missed explosive passing plays. Easy. I mean, those were, whether it was Mike Evans with a fingertip, and he dropped one against the Eagles too on Monday night. But those plays will definitely be there, especially in a dome, you would think.
Yeah, I think the blitzing is just like the big thing here. And the blitzes just like didn't get home last time. And when you don't get home blitzing Jared Goff, he's just going to destroy you because there's going to be guys open. Like, this is a good group of skill players. So they're going to feast on you at that point. And speaking of feasting, like you said, Mike Evans is in a premium matchup here against Cam Sutton. That guy got smoked by Puka last week to an extreme degree. And then you have Mike Evans here with a total of 68.5 versus these outside corners. I know it's going to be like a pretty obvious fish play, but I still like the over, man. I think that number is a little bit too low. It is interesting looking at both of these quarterbacks, how they're going to deal with this pressure. You have one quarterback, like I said, in Jared Goff is going to face a ton of blitzes here. We know Todd Bowles loves to blitz. The other side, you have Baker Mayfield, who is going to face, I think, some inside pressure from Alim McNeil here. I think the weak point of this Tampa Bay line has kind of been the interior at times.
Absolutely.
So you do see Baker Mayfield fold up in those spots sometimes. He took some really ugly sacks against Philly where he just kind of turtled in spots where he really didn't need to. I don't know. It seems like because of both of these quarterbacks, they can make huge plays, but they can also make horrific plays. I'm just seeing like a really wide range of outcomes in this game for sure. I think if you bet Tampa Bay, you definitely need to mix in a good amount of money line because they're going to probably win the game a decent chunk of the time that they cover.
Yeah, and going back, you just brought up, generally speaking, Mayfield's proneness to maybe making some mistakes like I brought up and you brought up with Goff. But you look at the last couple of weeks of the season, 4.8 yards per attempt. Just anybody targeting that number and maybe trying to play Mayfield unders and Lions alt spread potentially, dealing with an ankle and a rib injury during both of those games, Saints and Panthers. That was a part of my handicap with betting Carolina. Panthers probably got unlucky, so the Bucs were kind of lucky to win the division in the first place, but looked healthier against the Eagles, to say the least, despite taking some of those sacks. I was curious how he was going to perform after that one, I think, right before the half, but wound up with an efficient game, and I don't think that was a product of just grinding through the rib injury. He looked good, and this is a very vulnerable Lions secondary, as we both touched on. Also, the Bucs should be pass heavy, which maybe was an issue with backing the Bucs earlier in the year. 75% neutral game pass rate against the Eagles. With how much Tampa Bay relied on their ground game, we talked about that a ton on Beat the Closing Number throughout the season. A good sign if you're looking to back the Bucs against the spread or on the money line. Last game up here, Mo, in the divisional round. We're also really quick to that reporter who asked Todd Bowles what the game plan is for Goff and outdoor elements. You don't need to ask a question. You could just take notes in the press conference and go from there. Like trying to force one when you don't know where the game is being played. It's indoors. Come on, man. Did you see that?
I did. I had somebody ask me if that person would like lose their job over that. I said, absolutely no chance. I was like, you get in this business and you do stuff like we do, like that reporter does, like we do. You're going to say silly things every now and then when your brain glitches or whatever it may be. We've all done it. And you just have to like be able to laugh it off and move on. So yeah, it's not that huge of a deal. It's just a silly moment and, you know, whatever, you just move on from it.